let's begin with the second lecture, which is on the poem My Mother at 66. It is written by Kamala Das. And who was Kamala Das? Kamala Das was born in the year 1934 and passed away in the year 2009. She was born in Kerala at a place called Malabar. She is recognized as one of the India's foremost poets. Her works are known for their originality, versatility, and the indigenous flavor of the soil. So, what is the meaning of originality? Originality refers to something realistic or real, right? Versatility, it is the ability to adapt to different functions. And what is the meaning of indigenous? It is native, that is Swadeshi, right? Flavor of the soil. Kamala Das has published many novels and short stories in English and Malayalam under the name Madhavi Kut. Some of her works in English include the novel Alphabet of Lust, a collection of short stories, Padmavati the Harlot, and other stories, in addition to 5 books of poetry. She is a sensitive writer who captures the complex subtleties of human relationships in lyrical idiom. My Mother at 66 is an example of such, right? The thing that we understand from the paragraph is Kamala Das is recognized as India's foremost poet. Her works are known for their originality, versatility, and indigenous flavor. And I have already told you the meaning of these 3 words. She has also published many novels. And she, if you want some extra information, I'm telling you that she was also a widely read columnist. She wrote on diverse topics and she won Kerala Sahitya Academy Award and Normal Sahitya Academy Award also. So this was all about the poet. Now, let me give you a basic outline of the poem, then we'll go with the poem. So the poem is a lyrical idiom. What is idiom? An expression, a figurative meaning that differs from the literal meaning. Okay. Brings out the complexity of human relationship, how complex human relationships are. It talks about this. This poem is about. The poet had gone to meet her mother, okay, and now is driving back to airport. On the way, she notices the pale face of her mother. Pale means yellow face of her mother, and is struck with an instant realization that her mother is very old now. This, of course, upsets the poet as it makes her realize that her mother is nearing to death. Now, what is significant about the poem is the whole poem is a single sentence. If you notice it nicely, you will see there is no punctuation mark. Punctuation means no full stop mark in the entire poem. It is punctuated by commas, the entire poem. So basically this whole poem is considered as a sentence. Okay. So this is itself a full line that is continuing throughout the poem. So now let's begin with the very first stanza of the poem. What did the first stanza say? Driving from my parents' home to Cochin last Friday morning, I saw my mother beside me, doors open-mouthed, her face Asian like that of a corpse. What do we understand from the first paragraph? The poet had gone to visit her parents' home near Cochin. Now she had been returning home last Friday. When on her way to the airport, she noticed her mother sleeping beside her in the car, and her mother's mouth was open and her face was resembling to that of a corpse, that is pale and lifeless, just like that of a dead body. So there can be many questions from this paragraph. First question is how the poet was going to the airport. Answer is by driving. And from where the poet was going? From the parents' home. When she was going? Last Friday morning. And who was beside her? Her mother. Now let's see the poetic devices in the poem. So the first poetic device that we get in the first stanza of the poem is my mother. M and N is repeated. So this is an alliteration. Next, her face Asian like that of a corpse. Here like is used, and when like and as is used, we call it a simile. So this is a simile. Now let's begin with the second stanza. And realized with pain that she was as old as she looked, but so put that thought away and looked out at the young trees printing, the merry children spilling out of their homes. So what this paragraph is saying, basically the poet was alarmed by the sudden realization that old age had crept upon her mother. It was a reality she found hard to accept, and to take her attention away from the disturbing thought that her mother may die soon, she looked outside the car. Because the car was moving, the young green trees appeared to be running in the opposite direction. She also saw a group of children rushing out of their homes to play. So basically, this is a basic idea about this stanza. All this probably reminded her of her childhood when her mother was young. The young sprinting trees represented how fast time had flown by. The children represented youth, which was full of life and energy. The merry children, they were full of life and energy. Both the young trees and the children presented a sharp contrast to the old and mother sitting beside her. This was a great contrast between the mother who was nearing to death and young trees that were sprinting and the merry children who were full of life and joy in them. So let's see the word meaning from this stanza. What does pain refer here? And realize with pain. Pain is the fear of losing her mother. Looked. Why did she look out of the car? For diversion and distraction from her pain. The merry children spilling. What is the meaning of spilling? Spilling means rushing out of their homes. Now let's see the poetic device in this stanza. As I told you, whenever as and like is used to compare anything, it is a simile. So you can see here, she was as old as she looked. Right? So as old as, this is a simile. Here that thought is repetition of same sound, so we can call this alliteration. Young trees, here the trees are personified, so it is a personification. And the young trees are used to draw a contrast between her mother. Many children spilling, this is a metaphor. Now let's begin with the third stanza of the poem. But after the airport security check, standing a few yards away, I looked again at her van, pale as a late winter's moon. The young children and trees were able to divert her thoughts away. Right. But now, when she reached the airport and passing through the security check, the poet again looked at her mother, who was standing a few yards away from her mother. Her mother looked lifeless and dull, like a late winter's moon, which cannot be seen clearly because of mist and fog. Right. So, this we understand about the stanza, that she was diverting her thoughts because of the young children and trees. After reaching the airport, she again looked at her mother, her wan pale face, like that of the late winter's moon, and it resembled like that of a corpse only, and the face was not literally nicely visible because of mist and fog. Now, let's see the word meanings from the third stanza. So, what is the meaning of wan over here? Wan refers to pale, ill or tired, and pale is of course lustreless. It is not shiny basically. And what is the poetic device in this stanza? As a late winter's moon. Now you only can say as a late winter's moon. What is the poetic device here? So comment and write your answer. What you think? What is the poetic device here? As a late winter's moon, and let me know. Now let's begin with the last stanza. That is the fourth stanza of the poem and the last one. And felt that old familiar ache, my childhood's fear. But all I said was, see you soon, Amma. And all I did was smile and smile and smile. So, same as I did in every stanza, I will tell you the overall meaning of this stanza first, then the meanings, and at last, the poetic device of the very last stanza of the poem. Try to understand what the last stanza is trying to say. Basically, the poet was again pained to see her mother in this condition. As she was going away and leaving her mother, her old familiar pain, her childhood fear that she would lose her mother suddenly came back to her. So she was tired to hide her emotions behind a smile. She tried to hide her emotions behind her smile. She did not want to reveal her feelings to her old mother and bade her farewell with a smile. She gave hope to her mother and herself by saying that they would meet again and kept on smiling. Now let's see 1 to 2 word meanings from the fourth stanza. What is the meaning of familiar? Familiar means similar, same. Ache. What is the meaning of ache? A-C-H-E. Ache means pain. Pain it is. Okay. Now, see the poetic device. Smile and smile and smile. This is a repetition. So, this was all about the poem My Mother at 66. Right. So, I have tried to explain you very nicely all the things, all the poetic devices, all the word meanings, the basic idea of these stanzas, each stanza. So, all you have to do is give a reading through the whole poem, and whatever I have explained, try to write with a pencil in your book the poetic devices and try to remember it, understand and memorize it. Thank you.